2025 will mark 100 years of the BBC broadcasting the shipping forecast. One of the hosts, one of the presenters, what do you call yourself, Amanda, of that programme, is Amanda, who's with me now.
Hi. So I don't know, we're continuity announcers is like my official job title. But then, I suppose to some people I just say, I read the shipping forecast. Because quite often people don't know what a continuity announcer is. But if I say, and I read the shipping forecast, everyone says, oh my gosh, wow. So they know what that means. Even though I don't know how many people actually listen to it at the time of broadcast, which is it's at 12 minutes to 1 every night. But it's not me every night, but when I'm on shift, lots of us, so I think there's about 20 announcers, and we kind of have different shift patterns. But yeah, the late shift is the one where you do the shipping forecast at night, and it's really, beautiful thing to do.
It's a soporific thing. It's a broadcasting legend. If I was honest, it's on my bucket list of broadcast things to do. I've done loads of things, but that is just sailing by, goes out, and then suddenly you come on. Tell me a little bit about the shipping forecast itself, because it's really restricted in the number of words and the duration and everything else and the pace.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's obviously written, its original purpose is written for sailors, people at sea, and for them to know what the sea conditions are going to be like. And so it's written very, very technical language. It's very sort of short. There's no faff. So you'd say north at Sierra, southwesterly 7, backing 9. Not like it is going to be windy and the wind is going to be coming from a southwesterly direction at force 7. There's no time for that. The reason that we play Sailing By traditionally is because the sailors would hear that song and they would know, the shipping forecast is coming on. Time for us to get a pen and paper, sit down and be ready to hear our shipping area and what's the conditions going to be for the next few hours. It still goes out at least twice a day, once at 5:20 a.m. and then also the nighttime broadcast at 12 minutes to 1. But it has now, obviously, with modern equipment, most sailors probably, they'll still use the shipping forecast, but they'll probably get that via some sort of app, I would imagine.
But if you're out at sea and you've got no signal, that's not going to happen. You still rely on long wave and you're relying on good old Radio 4.
Yeah, I think some sailors do still, as a backup, still use the radio frequency. But it has taken on this different entity and meaning for those of us that aren't necessarily at sea, that just like to listen to it, like to feel it's a lovely sort of comfort blanket. And for me, whenever I hear it, I just think, you think of all those people who are out at sea, or not necessarily out at sea, but doing coastal type jobs, and you're sometimes quite thankful that that's not you. But it's a beautiful, it's kind of, some people say it's like a piece of poetry, really, isn't it?
Very much so. And incidentally, Radio 3 have now picked up and they're using it as a sort of chilled theme, and they're playing some of the shipping forecast amongst chilled music as a way of relaxing on an online-only service, aren't they? Have you featured on that yet?
I don't know. I think, they've taken clips of some of us, like from previous ones, so I haven't actually listened to that, but I'm sure they've probably got a few of us. But people have favourites. Neil Nunes, who has got the very deep voice. Everybody is a big fan of Neil, so I imagine he's probably
featuring in there quite heavily.
Lots of that, yeah.
When you did that for the first time, because it is such an iconic thing, what was it like when you sat there and you're watching the clock tick up, you've got Sailing By, however much of it you had that night, and then you're watching the clock and thinking, this is it. This is one of those things, and presumably your colleagues and your family and friends listening as well.
Yeah, do you know what? The first time I did it, I was actually quite emotional. I think because it's such a privilege to do it, such an honour, and I'd listened to it so many times before. And when I moved to London in my early 20s, I really missed being by the sea, but the sort of connection that I could feel was at night I would put on the shipping forecast to go to sleep. And so it did just feel like this real honour to do it. And, being from the island, being from a place where the sea is all around us and it's so important to us, and it's something that we're all aware of at all times. It was really amazing to be able to do it. And now I still do feel it's a very special time of night. We all do, actually, all of us announcers. We kind of, the shipping forecast is like a hallowed piece of broadcasting. We all really respect it, and we all are so thrilled to be able to do it because we know it means so much to people. And for people who are listening, sometimes, it might be people on their own and they really rely on the radio as a companion. And actually, we know that the shipping forecast means so much to people.
Back in the 1980s, when I was on Radio Caroline, and the captain would task one of us each evening to sit up on the bridge and tune in to Radio 4. Most people would wait for Sailing By to sort of come towards its end, but I'd go rush up the stairs so I could hear it, because it was part of it, sitting on the bridge on a ship in the North Sea, waiting for that. And then if it was a particularly bad northeasterly forecast coming down the Knock Deep Channel, we'd have to go and wake the captain up It was always taking your life in your hands.
Yeah.
Is it bad enough to tell him or not? I'm not too sure. But it's an incredible thing. Let's look at your career. You from the Isle of Man, or you see family is still here. Whereabouts on the Isle of Man are you from?
From Onken, so lived there since I was 4. So I can't call myself Manx, but I mean, I feel Manx. I'm definitely an Islander, and I'm very proud to be from here. And yeah, I still come back, lots of times a year to come and see my parents, who are now grandparents to my children. So got to bring them back, get all that island time. And my daughter's old enough now to really enjoy seeing all the castles and things like that. So it's a lovely place to come back to for holidays.
And you were telling me as we were walking up to the studio that you also tune into Man in Line every now and again.
Yeah, just if I'm missing the island, I love to listen to Man in Line, specifically Man in Line. Amazing accents on that, just to hear, what's all the local skeet, what's happening, what's everybody getting annoyed about today. I also love to, when the TT's on, I love to listen to the Manx radio TT coverage, because just those accents, amazing. It's the only way to really feel it and hear it.
It's fantastic. You, talking about Manx, you introduced a bit of Manx into the bulletins as well, didn't you? Tell us about that, and how did it go down?
Yeah, so after the shipping forecast, but at 1 o'clock so Radio 4 closes down for the night from 1 o'clock until 20 past 5. So we do what we call a close down, which is after the shipping forecast. There's a little bit of time just to say thank you and good night and wrap up before we're all very strict time on Radio 4. So specifically at 1 a.m. Well, actually, 5 seconds to 1 when we hear the pips
precise,
and then it swaps. We get to say goodnight, and some people just sort of say, I'm such a body, thank you, good night. But I always like to say thank you for listening, and that time of night, I feel, is the time when the sort of veil between the radio and the listener is the thinnest, and that you really know that you're speaking to just one person. And I started off saying, thank you and good night. And then I thought, do you know what? I might just say good night in Manx, because I'm from the Isle of Man, and it's nice to just put a bit of that in there. So one time I just said, and I don't know actually if the first time, it might have been because it was like Tynwald Day, or maybe I just did it otherwise. But
for the sake of it, yeah.
For the sake of it, yeah. And then it just felt quite nice to do, and I got quite a nice response. People started messaging me saying, did you just say some Manx on the radio? And then I heard that, everybody back home was really appreciative of having a bit of Manx out there. So, yeah, I just say, Evi, good night, and then that's it. Or sometimes I'll say, or as we say on the Isle of Man, Evi.
Which I've heard you doing. That's just fantastic.
Exactly.
That is a really nice touch, and it's a brilliant thing to do. Even while you've been back on this trip, and we're going to come on to why you're on the island now in a second, but even while you've been back on this trip, people have picked up on that, haven't they?
Yeah, so I was in Spill the Beans the other day getting my lunch, and somebody came over to me and said, are you that girl that says Manx on the radio? I was like, yes, that's me, but I didn't know, word gets round, you can't go anywhere without people knowing what you're doing.
Welcome back to the Isle of Man. It's the land of skeet. So you're back for a specific reason. You're seeing your family as well, and grandchildren being seen by grandparents, fabulous stuff, but you're also here because, as I mentioned, the BBC have been broadcasting the shipping forecast for 100 years in October next year, 2025, and there's a series of programmes which are coming up around New Year to sort of start celebrating that, aren't there?
Yeah, so as part of this, because it's our special sort of centenary year of the shipping forecast, on New Year's Day, it's going to be a special shipping forecast day on Radio 4. There's loads of programmes about the shipping forecast, about its meaning, about the impact it has. There's a special programme about sailing by, the music. But yeah, as part of it, some of us announcers who have got a special connection to a particular shipping area have gone back to our hometowns, or home islands as it were, and are just making it's called the Shipping Postcards. So it's just a short 15-minute programme, but it's been brilliant. It's been such an honour to do, and when I got asked to do it, I was like, this is the dream. This is exactly what I'd love to go and do. Talk about the Isle of Man and the sea, because I love the sea. I just feel so connected to it.
And living in London, presumably, it's nice to get that fix as well.
Exactly. I sometimes go down to see the river because I'm like, I need to be near a body of water, but nothing quite
the same.
Standing on a beach, So we've spoken to some really interesting people. We've spoken to Captain Stephen Carter, who used to be the pilot of the Port of Douglas, and he told us about about, some of the things he's done over the years. And he took us out on the pilot boat just into Douglas Bay, just a tiny bit, because the weather hasn't been fantastic. It is December.
I was going to say, we're doing a programme about the shipping forecast. You've been here. It hasn't stopped howling since you got here.
No, exactly. And, the boats haven't been going, but we managed to get out just to near the Tower of Refuge, because, of course, the RNLI connection, which I didn't really appreciate. I knew that was a thing, and it was built by William Hillary, but it's obviously the special bicentenary year now. So also we've spoken to Alison Fox from the museum and been to talk about the exhibition at the House Manannan, and then we've just been to speak to Emily Heaton, who's a coxswain down at the lifeboat station, about what they do, and just had an amazing. It's just been amazing to hear from them, and I've got much more kind of an appreciation of people who actually have to go out at sea, because quite often when I read the shipping forecast, I'm just thinking about the sea and standing on the shore, but now I'll be thinking of Emily and the team going out in that weather.
So you were thinking previously about maybe Port Erin Beach on a nice July afternoon, and now you're going to be slightly different.
Thinking about this. Oh, and I should also say we also went to speak to Ruth Kegan-Gale from Culture Vannin about Manx, because obviously we've mentioned that I have that Manx connection, and I like to say a bit of Manx at the end of the shipping forecast, but about Manx as a language, and it's obviously we are an island that is so affected by the weather. Like, does Manx have different words for weather that we don't know about? And now I'm not going to get it wrong, so I'm not going to say it, but like there is a particular word in Manx which describes the sound of the shore hitting a pebble beach.
Oh wow, okay.
And you know what sound I'm talking about,
I know
right?
exactly
when I said
the
that,
sound. Absolutely,
there is a word in Manx. I don't know what it is.
Well, ask Phil Gorn, and we'll check it up on the programme. Yeah.
But there is a word in Manx for that exact sound, and what an amazing language that sort of represents our status as an island. And there's lots of idioms in Manx which are very interesting about weather-based idioms, because obviously it's always raining, but then it's not. and
it's blowing a hoolie
and
out
it's
there,
raining, and then it's not. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There was a saying in the Falkland Islands where I lived for a while that if you don't like the weather, wait 20 minutes, and it's slightly longer here, but the principle is the same.
Yeah.
I can't let you go without, first of all, just remind us when the programme is on.
Yes, so it's going to be on New Year's Day between 11 and 1. I don't know currently the specific timing of that, but it'll be clear nearer the time. But you can also find it on BBC Sounds afterwards as well. So it's called The Shipping Postcards, and there'll be one from me, and there's ones from Scotland and North Yorkshire and down by the Isle of Wight, I think. Our rivals. Everyone always thinks I'm from the Isle of Wight.
I'm
not from the Isle of Wight. It's not.
So what's it like in Sandown? I don't know. I'm not there.
Yeah.
So I can't let you go. I want you to picture the scene. It's 12:59. You've finished the shipping forecast. You've got through it. It's all good. It's coming towards the end of the day's broadcasting, but not Radio 4. It's Manx Radio. So you're going to sort of talk about the end of the day on Manx Radio, and then give us a nice Manx goodnight as well.
Okay. I would say. Well, we're coming to the end of our evening here on Manx Radio. Thanks so much for listening. My name's Amanda Litherland, and I'm here at Manx Radio in Douglas. Evi, good night.
Beep, beep, pips, yeah, there we go.
There
Into the World Service. Fabulous. Amanda, thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Looking forward to hearing the programme, and keep doing the Manx as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.